George Hadley stood on the African grassland alone. The lions looked up from their feeding, watching him. The only flaw to the illusion was the open door through which he could see his wife far down the dark hall, like a framed picture, eating her dinner abstractedly. "Go away," he said to the lions. They did not go. He knew the principle of the room exactly. You sent out your thoughts. Whatever you thought would appear. "Let's have Aladdin in his lamp," he snapped. The Veldt land remained. The lions remain. "Come on, room. I demand Aladdin," he said. Nothing happened. The lions mumbled in their baked pelts. "Aladdin!" He went back to dinner. "The fool's room's out of order," he said. "It won't respond." Or what? "Or it can't respond," said Lydia, "because the children have thought about Africa and lions and killing so many days that the room's in a rut." Could be. Or Peter set it to remain that way. Set it? He may have gotten into machinery and fixed something. Peter doesn't know machinery. He's a wise one for 10. That IQ of his, nevertheless. "Hello, Mom. Hello, Dad." The Hadleys turned. Wendy and Peter were coming in the front door, cheeks like peppermint candies, eyes like bright blue agate marbles, the smell of ozone on their jumpers from their trip in the helicopter. "You're just in time for supper," both parents said. "We're full of strawberries and ice cream and hot dogs," said the children, holding hands, "but we'll sit and watch." "Yes, come tell us about the nursery," said George Hadley. The brother and sister blinked at him, then at each other. "Nursery?" "All about Africa and everything," the father said with false joviality. I don't understand," said Peter. "Your mother and I were just traveling through Africa with rod and reel. Tom Swift and his electric lion," said George Hadley. "There's no Africa in the nursery," said Peter simply. "Oh, come now, Peter, we know better." "I don't remember any Africa," Peter said to Wendy. "Do you?" "No." Run see and come tell." She obeyed. "Wendy, come back here," said George Hadley, but she was gone. The house lights followed her like a flock of fireflies. Too late, he had realized he'd forgotten to lock the nursery door after his last inspection. "Wendy'll look and come tell us," said Peter. "She doesn't have to tell me. I've seen it." "I'm sure you're mistaken, Father." "I'm not, Peter. Come along now." But Wendy was back. "It's not Africa," she said breathlessly. "We'll see about this," said George Hadley. And they all walked down the hall together and opened the nursery door. There was a green, lovely forest, a lovely river, a purple mountain, high voices singing, and Rima, lovely and mysterious, lurking in the trees with colorful flights of butterflies, like animated bouquets lingering in her long hair. The African Veldt land was gone. The lions were gone. Only Rima was here now, singing a song so beautiful that it brought tears to your eyes. So Wendy had changed this. We know that the father couldn't change it before. It kind of was like stuck to the kids. It wasn't, the room wasn't obeying him. He called for it to be Aladdin, and it was staying the same African Veldt. Well, now when Wendy goes and it comes back, she changes it to a forest with mountains. And it's actually a very lovely scene compared to the description we get of the African Veldt. So it's very interesting that it'll change for her, but it wouldn't change for the father. So that shows that it might be only responding to the children. Maybe Peter did do something to it, like the dad thought. I don't know. We're going to find out. George Hadley looked at the change scene. "Go to bed," he said to the children. They opened their mouths. "You heard me," he said. They went off to the air closet, where a wind sucked them like brown leaves up the flue to their slumber rooms. So it's like a giant tube that just kind of sucks them up. And if anyone's ever seen the Jetsons, it's kind of like that. So they don't have to walk to their room. They just get sucked through this tube and get plopped down in their room. That's pretty convenient. I wouldn't mind that. George Hadley walked through the singing glade and picked up something that lay in the corner near where the lions had been. He walked slowly back to his wife. "What is that?" she asked. "An old wallet of mine," he said. He showed it to her. The smell of hot grass was on it, and the smell of a lion. There were drops of saliva on it, too. It had been chewed, and there were blood smears on both sides. He closed the nursery door and locked it tight. Interesting. I wonder if he just dropped his wallet before and the lions got to it. In the middle of the night, he was still awake, and he knew his wife was awake. "Do you think Wendy changed it?" she said at last in the dark room. "Of course." "Made it from a veldt into a forest and put Rima there instead of lions?" "Yes." "Why?" "I don't know, but it's staying locked until I find out." "How did your wallet get there?" "I don't know anything," he said, "except that I'm beginning to be sorry we bought that room for the children. If the children are neurotic at all, a room like that, it's supposed to help them work off their neuroses in a healthy way. I'm starting to wonder," he stared at the ceiling. "We've given the children everything they ever wanted. Is this our reward? Secrecy? Disobedience?" "Who is it said? Children are carpets, and they should be stepped on occasionally. We never lifted a hand. They're insufferable. Let's admit it. They come and go when they like. They treat us as if we're offspring. They're spoiled, and we're spoiled. They've been acting funny ever since you forbade them to take that rocket to New York a few months ago. They're not old enough to do that alone," I explained. "Nevertheless, I've noticed they've been decidedly cool towards us since. I think I'll have David McLean come tomorrow and have a look at Africa. But it's not Africa now. It's Green Mansion's country in Rima. I have a feeling it'll be Africa again before then." A moment later, they heard screams. 2 screams. 2 people screaming from downstairs. And then a roar of lions. "Wendy and Peter aren't in their room," said his wife. He lay in his bed with his beating heart. "No," he said. "They've broken into the nursery. Those screams, they sound familiar." "Do they?" "Yes, awfully." Although their beds tried very hard, the 2 adults couldn't be rocked to sleep for another hour. The smell of cats was in the night air. That's a little odd to me, that the parents heard 2 screams coming from downstairs where their children were, and they're not going to check on them. They're just staying in their beds. "Father," said Peter. "Yes." Peter looked at his shoes. He never looked at his father anymore, nor at his mother. "You aren't going to lock up the nursery for good, are you?" "That all depends." "On what?" snapped Peter. "On you and your sister. If you intersperse this Africa with a little variety, Sweden perhaps, or Denmark or China, I thought we were free to play as we wished." "You are, within reasonable bounds." "What's wrong with Africa, Father?" "Oh, so now you admit you've been conjuring up Africa, do you?" I wouldn't want the nursery locked up," Peter said coldly. "Ever. Matter of fact, we're thinking of turning the whole house off for a month. Live sort of carefree, one-for-all existence." "That sounds dreadful. Would I have to tie my own shoe instead of letting the shoe tire do it? And brush my own teeth and comb my hair and give myself a bath? It would be fun for a change, don't you think?" "No, it would be horrid. I don't like it when you took out the picture painter last month." "That's because I wanted you to learn to paint all by yourself, son." "I don't want to do anything but look and listen and smell. What is there to do?" "All right, go play in Africa." "Will you shut off the house sometime soon?" "We're considering it." "I don't think you better consider it anymore, Father." "I won't have any threats from my son." "Very well." And Peter strolled off to the nursery. Seems like Peter has a lot of power in here because of his temper tantrums. We learned that they weren't allowed to take a rocket to New York last year, which makes me even more think of the setting of this as futuresque, if ordinary people can have rockets to take to New York. So they've been acting cold since then, and now Peter is upset because he might have to do simple things on his own, like tie his shoe and brush his teeth and comb his hair and give himself a bath. And he doesn't want to do that because, again, he is spoiled. And his parents finally admitted that they've spoiled the children. And now that they're trying to undo it, they're getting a lot of backlash for it from the children, at least from Peter. We haven't really gotten Wendy's opinion on this